Hey, Cheffyk here, making dinner for the family tonight. I just thought I'd show you what I'm doing. Maybe you can make this same dinner for your family some night. So, I've got a pork loin roast. It's quite nice. Just a second here. Need to get a towel. So a nice pork loin roast, and I've got some russet potatoes I'm going to roast. I'm going to oil them and season them and roast them whole in a real hot oven. And I'm going to make smashed potatoes, not mashed, not to be confused with mashed, but smashed. And I'm going to make some pan dripping gravy from the pork loin. And I'm making bone broth here. This has been on for about 24, well now it's been on for about 29 hours, both of these pots. Started these yesterday afternoon during a bone broth class. Skimming and babysitting it so it stays nice and clear. That's what the students learned yesterday during our class. You can see that, you can see that very well, but it's beautiful stuff. Okay, so pork roast. We'll get that going first. I just picked this up at Safeway. It's a pretty decent looking pork roast. Real decent actually. Nice and big. It's actually two pieces of loin that are, see that? They're tied together. And what I want to do is separate these just because I'm going to do something a little different. It's nice that they're all tied off, but I'm going to roast these as two individual roasts instead of one big roast. That'll cut down on the cooking time and be able to get the seasoning. Nice thing about, a thinner roast is, besides shorter cooking time, is that I can put seasoning all over this, whereas if it was together like this, I'd only have seasoning on this, and there's a lot of space here that's not going to be seasoned. So I like a well-seasoned piece of meat, so that's how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to go really simple with the seasoning. I've got some salt, pepper, and garlic mix that I make up from, it's custom mix for our Cheffyk and CA Cooking School stuff. And this is just my fresh garlic salt, which is kosher salt and fresh garlic. So I whir the garlic up in the food processor, and then I paddle it in together to salt, to kosher salt. Paddle it all together so it makes this kind of damp garlic salt. And then you spread it out on sheet pans and let it dry. I got a convection oven here, and so I don't turn the heat on. I just turn the fan on and leave the door propped open a little bit, and makes this fantastic kosher garlic salt with fresh garlic, all fresh garlic. So, and it's got a ton of garlic in it, so it's like super tasty. It's about 12 ounces of fresh garlic. I'm trying to remember the ratio now. But it's just super easy. You can just get a box of kosher salt. You can experiment. I think I was using about 12 ounces of salt in a 3-pound box of kosher salt. So I'm just seasoning it up real good. And I think for fun, I might even throw on a little bit of the deep, dark, and smoky. So I've got this smoky chili powder that I make also. It's got Morita smoked chilies. It's got some Japanese chilies that are kind of in the spicier variety. And it has the garlic salt and pasilla chilies. So I get the chilies fresh from, not fresh, I mean dry, from Mexican market downtown, down Wenatchee, and then get them whole bags of dried chilies, and kind of buy them in bulk. And then whir them up in the, blast them in the Vitamix, and it makes the best chili powder. It's so good. I'll show you some of the chili powder. Just bear with me a second. So this is the Sia. No, this is the Morita. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's beautiful stuff. Holy! I got a bunch stuffed into my nose. Sneezing. All right, here we go. So I got the roast all seasoned up real nice. You definitely want to overdo it a little bit on the seasoning. This is a big, thick, fat piece of meat. And you know, it's not going to get into it. Like if I would have started this this morning and put seasoning on it, like I'm doing now, and then let it sit around until today, till now, like if I let it sit for 5 or 6 hours with this rub on it, a lot of flavor would have absorbed into the meat. Or even overnight. If you do it overnight, you'll end up with it dries the roast out a little bit, leaches out some liquid, concentrates the flavor of the meat, and also seasons it up really nicely all the way into the center, because it's a fairly small cut. So I'm just doing this. It'll still be delicious, but you want to put on a nice liberal bunch of salt. And then I got my oven preheated to 425, I believe, 450, and I'm gonna blast these roasts, and I'm gonna do the potatoes at the same time. So I'm just gonna use a little pan like so. And I'm going to put a little bit of carrot, celery, and onions on the tray. This will be a really nice addition to our gravy. Be a really nice addition to the gravy drippings. We'll roast some carrots like a little bed. And don't worry that I'm not cleaning my board between this, because I'm putting all this in the oven together. It's all roasted together, so it's not a concern. If I were going to use these carrots for a salad, of course, I would definitely not be putting it on this board after putting the meat on it. So I'm just going to nip the ends off of these carrots just to get the cleanest part. And I don't bother peeling these. And I'm going to cut these in fairly large pieces. These really skinny carrots, I'm going to leave them whole. I'm just going to chunk these up like so, because what I'm basically building is a little vegetable rack for underneath my pork roasts. So I'm going to put a little bit of celery out here. I'm going to stick my hand in that bag and contaminate it. Okay, so big chunks, nice and simple. A little bit of onion. I think I got a part of an onion in here. Yep, perfect. Piece of onion. Take off that outer layer of kind of leathery stuff. I'm going to cut my onion up in large chunks like I'm doing already. And if you cut just to the root end but not through it, have the root end away from you, it holds the onion together like this, so it's easier to manage. So now you can just cut it into chunks like so. It's nice and easy. I'm going to lay some of these veggies on the tray. These will be delicious to eat also with the roast. They'll be all goopy and sticky from the meat and the juices. It's going to be delicious. So I'm going to put it like that, so it gives me room for my potatoes. I'm going to do this all on one tray. Bear with me a second while I plug my phone in. I don't want it to die in the middle of my feed here. Wasn't thinking. There we go.
Okay, we're still live. There we go.
Okay. So, potatoes. going to be really simple, down-home roasty meal. Oh, the gravy is going to rock. It's just going to be so good. This bone broth is outstanding. Tastes so good. So what I'll do, what I'll end up doing, and you'll see this when I go about it, but I will be, after I roast the meat, I'll remove the meat from the pan, and I'll leave the veggies on the pan, remove the meat and potatoes, and I will add some bone broth to the pan and put it on this burner. Just set it right up on here, and turn on the burner and get it hot. And so it'll be sizzling a little bit, and saute my vegetables a little bit more, maybe brown them up if they're not brown enough. We'll see how they come out. And then I'll add some bone broth to it and stir it around and scrape all the little brown bits off the bottom of the pan. All that roasty goodness will then become part of the broth for our pan drippings for our gravy. Okay. So I'm going to step out of the scene here and just wash these potatoes real quick. So these potatoes are just going to be, I'm going to oil and salt and pepper these potatoes, but I'm going to first, wash them. I'm going to dry them so that the oil sticks to the skin of the potato and not have a barrier of water between. We don't want to steam them. Roasting is a dry heat cooking method, and so what you want to do is have lots of dry heat and as little steam as possible. Okay? A moist heat cooking method, for instance, as braising or stewing, would be, we want all that steam and we want to capture a lot of steam. But in this particular case, we want dry heat. Moist cooking methods are suitable for tougher cuts of beef, like a chuck roast or some other type of roast like that, a stew meat kind of thing. And you want to use moist heat cookery for that. That would be the braising piece. And dry heat cooking is for tender cuts of meat. So prime rib roast, for instance, a roasted chicken. Meat that's going to be fine to cook all at the same time quickly in high heat. And the goal is to caramelize the outside. That's why I got the oven to 450. And, oh, that's loud. Hold on. There we go. Sorry. We're going to be watching the Oscars here pretty soon after I put this in the oven. Okay, so I got my potatoes, I got my roast. I'm just going to use this bowl, put my potatoes in it. I got a little bit of olive oil here. Just going to drizzle some olive oil on it. Just going to toss them around. Get them nice and evenly coated with oil. I'm going to sprinkle some good stuff on there, some garlic salt. I got this little teeny bag of garlic salt right here that I'll use. This is the basis for all of my spice mixes, so I make a bunch of this and then I can make batches of spice mixes that I make. So it's always nice to have around. Season these up really well too. And I'm going to twist a few grinds of black pepper on this. Roasting these at the high heat that we're going to be doing the roast on will produce a real crispy crust on these potatoes, crispy brown roasty crust. And then when they're completely cooked and they're tender, I'll take them out of the oven and squish them while they're hot, and they'll smush out and they'll crack and they'll smush out. And then I'm going to brush them with some butter or some olive oil or something. We'll see what I decide. And then maybe hit them with a little bit more seasoning. And then put them back in the oven and blast them again or put them under the broiler for a few minutes just to crisp up the edges after you add the fat. And then you end up with this really great brown, crispy potato that's smashed. It looks cool. It's just a rustic rustic vibe. So there we go. This is all going to go in the oven now. That's what it looks like. A couple of pork roasts all seasoned up, mirepoix on the pan, carrot, celery, and onions is mirepoix. I got my potatoes oiled and seasoned, washed, oiled, and seasoned, and it's going into a 450-degree oven right now. I like to cook higher up in the oven when I'm roasting, because lower in the oven, when I talk about higher and lower, I just mean the racks. Lower in the oven doesn't have as much heat. High in the oven has more heat, and I'm also going to turn the convection fan on for the oven so that I get even more, all that convection heat really sears things nicely, and we'll get a good, the thing about a small roast, this is if I was going to cook a prime rib, I might want to blast the prime rib at first at 450 for about 20 minutes to 30 minutes, and just to get a nice caramely crust on the outside, and then turn it way down to like 300 or 325, and allow it to slower roast, because a big prime rib roast is going to take a couple of hours in the oven, whereas opposed to these smaller roasts, they don't have as much time to get caramely, so you blast them at the high temperature from the beginning, so it works out really well. You can do that technique with tenderloins or steaks. If you're going to do like a seared steak, you want to blast high heat. So you a steak, you'd sear the meat in a pan, really hot, get a nice caramel coating on it, and then move the pan to the oven. You can put the whole pan in the oven. High heat roast, 450, 500 degrees, and that continues the caramelization process. If you go low heat, then you don't get caramel, you just get steam, and then you have this kind of like, caramel. Beef doesn't have its own thing going on with flavor. It doesn't have salt or sour or the things that pick up on your tongue. It doesn't have those things. It's kind of got umami, but that's for a different topic. But by adding the seasonings and doing the carameling, any of the sugars that's naturally resident in the meat caramelizes, and then you get a really nice flavor. So you're really looking for layering flavors and developing flavors when you're roasting meats. Okay, so I'm going to come back after I roast this for a while. It'll be about probably 45 minutes or maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. I'll sign back in and we'll finish this up. Talk to you later.